Trust me, there's no other book out there on Paul like this. This is new. This is very, very different. What does Paul look like if you're doing his life straight out of his letters, rather than doing him in a kind of a Sunday school way? And what is he thinking if you're taking the heart of his thought to be dying and rising with Christ and the power of the Spirit, rather than using frames that the Reformation gave us without arguably being centrally committed to them? What does Paul think? How does his gospel work if you're breaking a little bit with the kind of justification tradition? Well, it's a pretty exciting cocktail, and hopefully I'm giving you a little taste. Well, my book is really trying to give people the skinny on Paul, so I'm going after him. I'm going after what made him tick, and I'm trying to talk about him in a way that draws together what he was doing on the ground, which was incredibly dramatic and powerful. I mean, this guy is planting churches in hostile pagan environments all around the coast of the Mediterranean. I'm trying to intertwine the drama and action of his life with the theological stuff that was driving and informing that. So I'm pulling together, I think hopefully in a comprehensible way, how his thought, his theology is impacting his missionary work, and how his missionary work is impacting his theology. And I don't think that's really been done before in a good way, in kind of a brief overview of Paul's life. It's pretty tricky to do that. You have to be an expert in chronology, expert in biography, and you have to intertwine that with his theology and what he's learning. My book is going after a lot of stuff. It basically wants to walk you quickly through what you need to know about God acting in Jesus as a Christian, and then what to do with that in terms of planting and nurturing a church. So it's the whole shebang in there. Each chapter is a different stage in Paul's own learning about these critical things. So the book starts off with, how do we know the truth about God? And I'm pretty strongly committed to the truth about God, and I'm really keen on the fact that this happens through revelation. So Paul teaches us about how God is really in charge of the truth about God. But then what do we do with that? And so the second step is when Paul realized that the Trinity that he was involved with had these incredibly radical consequences for how you do missionary work and for how you get saved. So that's the next thing he learns. And then it's, well, what do I do with this? I can meet a whole bunch of interesting new people that I couldn't meet before. I'm not actually limited to Jewish practices the way I was before. But how do I meet people? So he learns about networking. So that's the next thing he learns in the next chapter. So now I'm networking and making friends and setting up congregations. How do I nurture them? What do they look like? What do Christian congregations look like? So every step of the way is represented by another chapter. So by the end of the book, you've step by step gone right through what he thought, and you'll have come to some interesting conclusions about this guy. He was an amazing person. He was brilliant, dedicated, passionate, very difficult to understand, very polarizing, but he is the kind of theological foundation of the church. So I hope he got it right. I'm hopeful about this. This book is out to make disciples. That's where it's going. I want you to be a disciple of Paul, and I want you to be a disciple in a Pauline way. And that is an exciting and a liberating thing.